The Middle East has entered one of its most volatile phases in decades as a chain of military strikes targeting critical energy infrastructure threatens to spiral into a full-scale regional conflict. What began as a calculated strike on Iran's most vital gas facility has now triggered a wave of retaliation that has engulfed the Gulf's energy heartland, raising alarms not just in the region, but across global markets. At the center of this crisis lies the South Pars gas field, a colossal reservoir beneath the Persian Gulf that fuels Iran's domestic energy supply and underpins Qatar's massive liquefied natural gas exports. On March 18, Israeli strikes hit this critical facility, damaging infrastructure and forcing production shutdowns at key refineries. Within hours, the consequences began to unfold. Iran, framing the attack as a direct assault on its sovereignty and economic lifeline, issued stark warnings. The message was unmistakable. Any targeting of its energy infrastructure would be met with retaliation in kind. Those warnings were not idle. Soon after, missiles and drones were launched toward multiple energy targets across the Gulf. Among the most significant strikes was an attack on Ras Laffan industrial city in Qatar, home to the world's largest liquefied natural gas processing complex. Explosions and fires erupted across the facility, disrupting operations at a site responsible for a significant share of global oil supply. The implications were immediate and global. Energy analysts warn that even temporary disruptions could trigger cascading effects across markets in Europe and Asia. Leng shipments, already strained by geopolitical tensions, faced further uncertainty. Fertilizer production, power generation, and industrial supply chains, all dependent on natural gas, were suddenly at risk. At the same time, other Gulf states reported incoming threats. Saudi Arabia intercepted drones and missiles targeting energy facilities, while authorities in the United Arab Emirates confirmed attempts to strike key gas installations. This was no longer a contained exchange. It was a coordinated escalation spreading across borders. Riyadh reacted with visible anger and deep concern.
The Saudi leadership framed the attacks not merely as acts of aggression, but as a betrayal of diplomatic trust. Prince Faisal bin Farhan said, "Iran shattered the trust we had before the attack." He went further, emphasizing that the timing and targeting of the strikes raised serious questions about Iran's intentions.
He said the targeting of Riyadh at a time when important diplomats are gathered cannot be a coincidence. The message from Saudi Arabia was clear: diplomacy had been undermined and patience was wearing thin. Yet, even amid strong rhetoric, the focus remained on de-escalation, at least publicly. He said, "Our sole focus is ensuring that these relentless attacks finally cease." Still, the tone suggested that Saudi Arabia and potentially its allies were preparing for all scenarios if the situation continued to deteriorate. For Qatar, the situation was particularly precarious. As a major global Leng exporter and a close U.S. ally, it found itself caught between competing powers in a rapidly escalating conflict. The strike on Ras Laffan was described by Qatari officials as a direct threat to national security and regional stability. Diplomatic consequences followed swiftly, with Doha ordering Iranian military and security attaches to leave the country. At the same time, authorities moved quickly to contain the damage and prevent further disruption to energy exports. Fires at the facility were brought under control, but the broader uncertainty lingered. Behind the scenes, the stakes were enormous. Any prolonged disruption to Qatar's Leng output could ripple across global energy markets, pushing prices higher and intensifying economic pressures worldwide. What makes this conflict particularly dangerous is its focus on energy infrastructure. Unlike traditional military engagements, these strikes target the very systems that power economies. The attack on South Pars and the retaliation against Gulf facilities represent a shift toward what analysts now describe as an energy war. Oil prices surged sharply following the escalation, with global benchmarks rising as markets reacted not only to immediate disruptions, but also to the fear of what might come next. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point through which a significant portion of global oil passes, has emerged as a potential flashpoint. Any attempt to block or disrupt shipping through this narrow waterway could have catastrophic consequences for global energy supply. The current crisis did not emerge in isolation. It is part of a broader conflict that has been intensifying over recent weeks. Earlier strikes targeted Iranian infrastructure, including military installations and logistical hubs. Iran responded with drone attacks on regional targets, including shipping lanes and industrial facilities. Each action has triggered a reaction, creating a cycle that has proven difficult to break. The strike on South Pars marked a turning point. By targeting the world's largest gas field, the conflict crossed into a new and more dangerous phase. From that moment, retaliation was almost inevitable. Beyond the immediate region, the consequences are being felt worldwide. Europe, already grappling with energy security concerns, faces renewed uncertainty over gas supplies. Asian markets, heavily dependent on LNG imports, are bracing for potential shortages. Industries ranging from manufacturing to agriculture are vulnerable to rising energy costs. Fertilizer production, which relies heavily on natural gas, could be particularly affected, raising concerns about food prices and supply chains. Financial markets have also responded sharply, with volatility increasing as investors assess the risks. In short, this is no longer just a regional conflict. It is a global economic threat with far-reaching consequences. Back in Tehran, the domestic atmosphere reflects a mixture of anger, grief, and defiance. Public sentiment has hardened, with large gatherings reinforcing calls for retaliation. Iran's leadership has framed the conflict as a defense of national sovereignty and a response to external aggression. The rhetoric has been uncompromising, with officials signaling that further retaliation remains on the table and that the country will not back down under pressure. Despite the escalation, diplomatic channels have not entirely closed. International leaders have called for restraint, urging all sides to avoid further targeting of energy infrastructure. There is a growing recognition that continued attacks could push the region and the global economy into a crisis from which recovery would be difficult. Yet the path to the escalation remains uncertain. Trust has been eroded, miscalculations are increasingly likely, and with each new strike, the risk of a broader conflict grows. The events of the past days mark a critical turning point in the Middle East conflict. What began as a targeted strike has evolved into a widespread confrontation involving multiple countries and critical global infrastructure. The targeting of energy facilities has raised the stakes to unprecedented levels, transforming a regional conflict into a global concern. The message from all sides is clear. This is no longer just about military dominance. It is about economic leverage, strategic signaling, and the balance of power in one of the world's most important regions. The question now is not whether the situation is serious. It clearly is. The question is how far it will go and whether the world can prevent the flames from spreading even further.